Feather
All right.
falls on the ball.
Yeah, he doesn't mess around. He was playing this engine and he abandoned it for a 5e version of Star Wars. So we're gonna pick up the pieces and run it right.
Who's
Uh,
the sassy Twi'lek? Is that your character?
nope, that's just the cover of the book. The obligatory. See, we bought the book. Screenshot grab. All right, so this is everyone's first time playing the game, and this is my first time running this game. So there's going to be a number of points where things are going to stop. We're slowing things down. If there's questions, let me know. I'm viewing this session as being the we're all learning session. Uh, we talked briefly before the game. If there's any like rules lawyering stuff, wait until after the session to bring them up, just to kind of keep with the flow of the story. So the premise of the story is that you're all part of a mercenary group that has ran jobs before. At least three of you have Altor, Ren, and Murgo. Ooh, no, not Murgo. Tosh have all ran kind of jobs, mercenary jobs together in the past. And uh, the new members of the group are going to be Murgo and IG. So this is kind of your two's first time running with this group, but you've started to kind of build a reputation for yourselves on your own. So to kick things off, we're going to be running the Jewel of Yavin adventure. Its origin, let me start over. The Jewel of Yavin, its origin and history shrouded in legend. The Jewel of Yavin is one of the largest and most beautiful Kursaka gems in the galaxy. By luck or by fate, a group of Jesus Christ, I can't read today. A group of enterprising,
Entrepreneurial.
yes, individuals has a chance of a lifetime to steal the precious gem from its current owner in Cloud City. Their contact, a canny Pantoran by the name of Eris Shen, has arranged a meeting at the ship in a landing bay in shadowy port town, but she is not alone. So that's where the story's going to kick off. Is you've gotten off of your ship. Your ship actually, so in uh, Bespin. So even though the adventure is called the Jewel of Yavin, we're actually in Bespin. And I have kind of a picture here of kind of how the structure for Bespin is laid out. So anyone who's actually seen the movies, it's a floating cloud city. And the top level of Bespin is actually just one small section of the larger Bespin. So most of the people who are familiar with Bespin know that it's like a big tourist attraction. The top level is where like a lot of the rich, you have your casinos, your resorts, your fine dining, the museums, all of that stuff's in the top level. But the vast majority of Bespin is kind of not underground, but within the ship itself. So you have like your living areas. You have Port Town, which is kind of the more urban, dirty back alleys kind of deals go on. The grimy bars where you'd find the like more middle class. And then the lower section of Bespin is made up of more of the industrial area. That's where they're actually doing a lot of the gas mining. So when you come into Bespin, you're not actually landing at the top level. You're actually landing in one of the bays in Port Town. So while you're flying into the city, why don't you guys actually do a round of introductions so that way the new members of the group kind of have an idea of who everyone is and kind of what's some of your strengths and weaknesses. What do you bring? What do you want to bring to the group?
I'm the sexy one.
We'll get to you. Let's start with Altor.
All right. Altor Thos. You've missed an H there on his stream overlay.
I missed nothing.
I've renamed you.
I've renamed
his name is now Toss. The
Yes.
H is not silent, but it is invisible. Altor Thos is a basilisk outlaw tech. He is a very grimy and down-to-earth kind of guy. He is obsessed almost with his vocation, which is circumventing security systems in somewhat unusual ways. Like, if it's a safe and you just gotta, crack the safe with a big old electronics box, that's kind of boring to him. But if you forgot to reinforce the ceiling, he will take great pleasure in just going one floor up and then knocking down into your safe. He's a big fan of that.
So you don't like to do things the easy way?
No, he loves going around the back door and finding ways that the original designers of these systems never, ever even considered, because they're a bunch of, fancy lad ivory tower types who've never seen a safe in their life. They just draw them for a living. So you might think of him as a very street engineer. He was born poor as shit in a commune on Ojum that had bought protection from the Hutts and was almost immediately turned into like semi-slaves, as tends to happen with the Hutts. His local government, which on his home world is kind of oddly structured, was unable to do too much about that once they were in debt. So he got out the way he knew how, as a thief. He's worked his way up to this point in his career. He's quite happy. He has no desires whatsoever for the finer things in life. He just keeps on making money so that he can spend it on tools, cheap food, and bribes to get out of prison.
All right. Ren Fortuna, why don't you introduce yourself to the group?
My last name is actually changed as well, but just to annoy you at this point.
I'm looking. I swear to God, if you did, you son of a bitch.
This is his working name.
I'll let you. Right. I'll say yours is the alias. That's all good.
Yeah, that's what you had in there. All right, go ahead. Go ahead. Ren Takamori.
I'm Ren. I am a extremely gaunt and pale individual. Also very thin. Most people kind of tend to underestimate me when they see me. By most galactic standards, I'm actually kind of weak looking until I start moving. And then it's a terrifying display of agility and martial prowess. I'm extremely honorable. I'm more likely to challenge somebody to face off one-on-one, even if I have to throw my weapons down, as long as it's a challenge and an honorable fight. I don't like guns for that reason. I view them as kind of distasteful, at least for personal use. And I'm excessively protective of certain members of our group for reasons I will not mention here. And as I mentioned earlier, I am also the token sexy one.
All right, IG77, did you change your name as well?
No.
Okay. No. Thank you for the level of consistency.
That's not fair. It's stamped on his chassis.
All right, so why don't you introduce yourself to the group, IG?
Gosh, IG7077 is he's a droid, and he kills things.
All right.
He's got a gun arm, and your feeble organic locomotion shall be terminated.
All right, straight into the point. Murgo, why don't you introduce yourself to the group as well?
I am a martial artist. I am good at brawling, and I don't use weapons. My hands are my weapons. Yeah.
Okay. A man of little words. All right, so there's a couple of things for the setup of the game that we have to do, and this is actually one of the things that I was chuckling about. Is rolling for obligation. But before we get to that, I'm going to have the good news, maybe, before the bad news. Let's roll the fate dice. So in RPG sessions, you're going to see there's a white dice that you mouse over. That's going to be called force.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead and roll one of those dice. This is going to be building up our force pool. Well, damn.
We're good.
Yeah, let me roll mine now.
We're just a bunch of lovable bandits.
Oh, that's why it's not rolling as them. Thank you. 1 dark side point. All right, so you guys rolled 1, 3, 4, 5, 6 light side and 1 dark side. Four, 5, 6. All right. So the way force dice or fate, like, I don't know what they're actually called, if they're force or fate dice, but the way they actually work is throughout the game, at any time, if you have like an unfavorable outcome or there's a situation where you find yourself in where things need to be different. So say you end up getting beat up real bad and you don't have a medic in the group. No one has any types of stim packs. You can actually use one of those points to try and set the scene and be like, hey, I just happened to be rummaging through this bag that's found on the corner and I found a needle and I want to use it to heal myself. You're going to present to me the scenario that you would like, and I'll let you know if it's overkill or not, and then I may come back with a counter and we'll work something out that narratively fits. You can't be like, oh, I just happened to find this switch that blows up the building and it crashes down and kills all the bad guys. I'm going to be like, no, that's bullshit. But you can be like, oh, I missed shooting them, but I want to flip one of these dice to hit a fire extinguisher that was behind them that kind of clouds their view and gives them disadvantage on their attacks. That's something I may allow. So that's just kind of an example of how you can use these tokens in your favor. Now, when you use one of the tokens, you'll flip a light side token. I likewise get to flip dark side tokens to get up and set obstacles for you. So just like Star Wars, there's always ups and downs kind of in the Force. There's kind of this balance of power. So every time you flip it and you flip one, you use it, I get one to use as dark. When I use one of mine, you get an additional one to use for light side. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So at the start of every game, we roll those dice and the force pool changes every game. Some games there's going to be more, some games there's going to be less. And I don't know who the hell that is. I got to figure out how to mod chat. That'd be a good thing to do. Sorry, distracted. I'll leave that be. Anyways, any questions about those dice? Or tokens?
Seems reasonable.
All right. And then we get into obligation. So by default, everyone was required to take on 10 obligation. Everyone else had a choice to take on more obligation in an attempt to gain more experience. So at the start of every session, I roll a 100-sided dice, or a percentile dice, to see if your obligation gets triggered during the session. So I rolled an 80. So the way obligation is when I roll that obligation dice, that percentile, you want to stay above the group's total obligation. If it ends up below your total obligation, it means the obligation triggered. And depending on the percentile, I kind of have it broken down in a certain way to where it triggers for certain people. The reason I was laughing earlier is let me redo this math real quick.
We have 115 total obligation.
You have 90 obligation. So you have a 10% chance that your obligation's not going to trigger until you pay some of this obligation down. So with the roll of 80, that was actually a lot closer than I expected, but obligation is triggered for everyone. And what that means is, with how I have this set up, there's going to be one person who's going to be double penalized. So everyone takes 1 point of strain on your character sheet.
Sure.
And the way obligation is there's kind of one person's whose obligation is actually going to be triggered in the game. And what that means is, Church, your obligation has actually been triggered. And what that means is you're particularly paranoid that one of your obligations is going to be called into effect.
Expectant, probably more likely.
Yes. So, like, from an RP standpoint, like, you don't know really why, but you kind of get the sense that something's not right. And you're so irritated by it that you're kind of stressing the rest of the group out. And that's why they have an extra level of strain. You, sir, take 2 points of strain. Difference between wounds and strain. Wounds is your, like, damage, and strain is kind of your stress level. If your stress level gets hit, like, you max out your stress level, you become unconscious. You, like, just knocked out. Your wounds, if your wounds end up getting maxed out, you can end up taking, like, a critical wound, which can be anything from, like, having a scar to death. I have my fingers crossed for the loss of limbs.
I have a few to spare.
Yeah, you do. You can be a basilisk with 4 cybernetic arms.
And I built them all myself, and they're all very illegal.
Calm your roll there, Lord Grievous.
The droid will be very happy the more mechanical you become.
A fine addition to my collection, but they're all wrenches.
So the leader of your group goes by the name of Toss Kreth. And he's a mercenary soldier. And does anyone want to actually try and roll? Let me see what the stat I'm thinking would be. Want to roll Xenealogy to see what he is?
See what my xenology is.
Yeah. So when you roll your dice pool for that, go ahead and add 2 difficulty dice to it.
Gotcha.
Can I roll from the character sheet?
No, you have to be on, like, the table and choose the skill drop down.
I have made a roll.
And it was a failure.
Yes. But I do have
But
an
you did
advantage.
get advantage, yep. So we'll see what everyone ends. Does anyone else want to attempt? Let me ask that, because not everyone has to. Some of you may not just care. All right, Ren.
Wait, I need to check if it's meat.
Yeah.
The droid only cares to know if it's meat or not.
Yeah. So you actually do recognize his race. And why is it not showing? There we go. His race, IG, you recognize him as being a gank. And the reason why you particularly recognize him as a gank is that you know that they are a race that tends to enhance themselves by cybernetics. The more cybernetic body parts you have and components you have, the more prestige you have.
Okay.
Ren, in an effort to try and talk Tosh into learning a little bit more about him, like you guys have a sense of camaraderie, but he's very closed off about his past, and you kind of just keep poking and poking, and you being also stressed out about this adventure and going to Bespin, and you being nervous about them figuring out one of your obligations kind of thing, you're starting to really irritate him, and he becomes kind of short with you. Eltor, you fail, but you kind of manage to get a laugh out of him, so he may lean towards helping you out in a pinch. Ren, he's probably gonna make you man up and prove yourself.
Can I throw some charm at him to smooth the waters?
You can try.
Do I need to add anything to my roll?
Yes. You'll end up adding, because you've stressed him out and have 2 threats, make it 3 purple and then 1 black setback dice.
Jeez.
Enjoy that risk.
You. So, what would you say to try and charm your boss?
Look, I get it. I'm stressed. You know, I've got a lot going on. We got a big job ahead of us. You got to forgive me and give me a little leeway here. There's a lot of pressure on me with these new guys on board and, you know, personal things I got going on. So I'm not trying to get under your skin or get on your nerves. Just trying to, I don't know, calm things down, set the mood, get us back on course as a unified group.
Listen, you want to lick someone's boots? There's a whole bunch of equipment in the back of the ship from our last objective. You can go and lick those clean.
You wound me, sir.
Sit down and shut up. We're gonna land soon. And with that, you hear the thrusters kind of engage to slow down, and the landing gear start to engage as you take kind of a rough landing on the landing pad.
Who's flying this bucket?
Yeah, that's a good question. Does anyone in the group want to be the pilot, or did you just kind of have it on an assumed autopilot?
I think only IG 777 actually has the skills for it.
Yeah, I think I have piloting skills.
So anyone can pilot. Just having skills makes you a better pilot.
Yeah, with my luck, you don't want me trying to land this thing.
All right, so ship lands. Everyone kind of unloads from the ship, and you find yourself in Port Town. So the majority of the Cloud City's landing bays and platforms are kind of around the port town. As I mentioned, it's kind of the more middle class. So you find like a lot of warehouses, starship repairs, refuel stations, as well as if you picture it as kind of being the type of shanty town to an extent. There's a lot of like the street is full of a lot of sellers. You don't really find like bodegas as much as like traveling merchants who kind of all align the streets all through Port Town. You make your way through the area, all the halls. There's no like turbo lifts to take you where you're going, so you end up pushing your way through the massive market stalls, carts, and packed starships.
As we travel through the markets, Altor's rumbling along. He says, I need some squibs. And he starts looking around.
Okay. You do find a shop. You want to buy some squibs?
Yes.
Do you have the money?
Full bucket. They're as cheap as humanly possible. It should be about 1 credit to the bucket.
Do you have the money?
Yeah, I think I got some money left.
All right.
I don't know how to spend it.
We'll add it to your tab. Just make a little side note afterwards. So yeah, you find a merchant who's just kind of a stinky cart.
Perfect.
A lot of squibs are a food.
Yes.
Okay.
They are a food I've just made up.
Okay. All right.
If they're actually a food in Star Wars, my God, I'm great at this.
Yeah, and there's probably actually stuff for him in the game. So yeah, you find this merchant. They have like what looks like rat on a stick, and a lot of like obscure foods. The smell from it, like most of the group wouldn't find that appetizing. But Altor, you make your way up, and yeah, they have a bucket of squibs.
I'm used to this.
1 full bucket.
Okay.
I'm used to this. I've got my head covered and kind of a face covered as we're going out anyway. So
Yeah,
this is perfect. So.
I kind of stay out in the hallway because the display of organics is just disgusting to me.
yeah, I'm following my buddy Altor.
Yeah, I'm staying back with IG.
That's probably wise for the both of you. That's not going to be a pleasant place. Altor's secured his bucket, paid his credit. He's holding it in his lower left arm and just kind of popping them into his mouth with his upper right. Big old smile on his face. As he walks back out, you see that these are just balls, maybe 1 inch, 2 inches across. And some of them have little like tendrils coming off of them. They might be some kind of organ, but they look like atrocious. And you can hear them sort of rubbery squishing as he bites in.
Altor, it's great that you're feeding this appetite because you're going to need your energy where we're going. But remember what we talked about proper hygiene after this. We need to make a good impression where we're going. So clean the bits, reduce the smell, just as we're going in. Because last time, I mean, the contact nearly passed out when you said hello.
So
don't worry, I'll finish it before we get there.
As you make your way back to like the main hall, you find Toss just kind of standing there, arms crossed, tapping his foot. You ladies done yet?
All good, boss.
Ren, I think you'd know better.
Just keeping an eye on things.
Yeah, but you gotta, you should have known better. You should have kept him. You're slowing things down. Altor, he's big and dumb. Of course he's gonna stop and eat, but you should know better.
I would gladly square off against any opponent at any time and any circumstance, but I will not come between Altor and his food.
Well, you got a point there. All right, let's get going. And with that, he kind of he waves the group on and works his way down to the rendezvous point. And you find yourself in front of the stall, and the merchant's selling different type of exotic cloths, different scarves. They have some shawls, things that you would find kind of more portable. You wouldn't find like dresses and stuff like that there. But you find this Pantoran woman who actually kind of makes her way around from the back of the stall, just kind of casually looking through different neckerchiefs and handkerchiefs and different things that have chiff in the word. And while she's browsing through these, she kind of talks to no one, but she says, "Good." And she avoids awkwardly acknowledging you, and she responds with, "You're on time. See those gentlemen in the black coats and goggles?"
Do we?
Roll perception for me. And make it two purple.
IG literally has eyes in the back of his head.
All right, so we got IG and Murgo end up with 2 triumphs. So you actually make out that there's about 6 men in black cloaks that are kind of scattered around the shopping area. All of them seem to be really focused on this woman who's talking to you. Ren, you notice them as well, and Altor, you notice them. Yeah, actually, everyone notices them, but specifically Murgo and IG. You notice there's one gentleman in particular. While the rest of them are Tabarith thugs, there's a Lutrillian, dressed in the same type of garb that seems to be talking into a comm link that he's holding. And after he talks, people in the group, the other thugs, tend to shift around and try to blend in with the crowd. IG and Murgo, you notice that these gentlemen all seem to be carrying blaster pistols as well. So yeah, she mentions that that the men in the black coats and goggles, she says, "We can't have them overhearing us. Find me at the droid access hat in 10 minutes. Ta!" And then she just walks away from the stall. And as she walks away from the stall, the Lutrillian man actually barks something into his comm link, and the other thugs tend to start falling in line and following her. And at this point, just for the sake of organization and to get everyone familiar with the process, go ahead and we're going to roll for initiative. The way we're going to roll for initiative in this case is you're going to use your cool stats. And we're going to make this 2 purples. So this is going to be an average difficulty.
So just rolling 2 purples?
Yeah. Not 2. You're going to choose your cool from your skills. You're going to add 2 purples to it. IG and Murgo, add a blue boost dice to your pool as well.
How on earth do you convert that to a turn order?
Good question.
It's what it breaks down into is whoever has the most successes. So this is where initiative is actually much more fluid in this than in like D&D. But let me actually... Yeah, I should have done something different. Sorry. So there's 6 of these guys. And I'm going to give everyone some re-rolls. So we'll make life a little easier for you.
Hmm?
And I wish there was a way to just roll this 6 times. So on the tabs to the left-hand side, you have characters, you have vehicles, and then you have initiative. Go ahead and choose your cool stat and hit roll PC.
Do you need us to add the difficulty first?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't add the difficulty.
That's fine. We'll leave it.
I get it. It's all good. I don't mind.
I'm rolling dice. I keep hitting roll dice instead of roll NPC. I'm still learning this too myself.
Say
All
I
right.
did something bizarre.
What's that?
Is that an error message? I thought you typed that.
I didn't type that. I clicked cool and I put in my roll and I hit roll PC and it did something bizarre.
And then it yelled at you.
No, I think it just changed something weird. I don't know. Okay.
So everyone rolled their stats?
I think.
I think.
All right, I'm gonna get rid of one of the PC slots because. All right, there we go. Well, let's add Tosh into it.
Hmm.
We'll add his cool stats. All right, so the way initiative works in this game is, so say in D&D you roll initiative and it's kind of ranked, like you go first, you go second, NPC goes third, NPC goes fourth, and that, like, your slot always stays the same. In this game, the initiative slots are fluid. So you don't, like, it doesn't tell you that, like, if you look at initiative, there's an NPC goes first. I can choose which NPC it is. Then it says PC goes second. You guys decide which PC fills that slot. And it can change every round. So based on circumstances and how you guys want to help each other out and piggyback off each other, you can change your initiative.
All right.
You just choose which of the PC slots you want to fill.
I will say I was itching to move to action, if anyone cares.
We'll see what happens.
So as the woman starts to walk away, one of the NPCs just breaks out from the crowd, starts to follow her, and pushes his way through the crowd, trying to close in on her. And that brings up another player character. So who wants to go?
I'll try if anyone else doesn't mind.
I feel like it would be funnier if you went.
All right.
Well,
so you have her who's about, I'd say, 30 to 40 feet in front of you, one man breaks off who's about 10 feet behind her, and then you have the other 5 of these guys kind of all bundled in with the crowd between your group and them.
So how far of a distance would I have to close to get between the one that's closest to her and her to actually physically put myself there?
You'd have about 50 feet to go, which would be about 2 maneuvers. But you'd also have to work your way through a busy market crowd as well as avoid the other guys. So, I mean, it would be, I'd make you do like an athletics or possibly a coordination check to see if you can work your way through the crowd without like knocking someone else over or running into one of the guys.
All right. Well, in that case, I want to point at the guy closest and extremely loudly, using actually a racial trait, my ability to alter the pitch of my voice a little more than normal, and shout out, "Hey, that guy just stole that pink kerchief. Get him!"
So go ahead and roll. I'd say a deception. Yeah, roll for deception. What does your racial do?
Oh no, it's just it makes my voice more soothing, or it's like a timbre thing. People like the voice of the Nagai.
Okay. Go ahead and add a boost to your deception. But at the same time, there's so much kind of going on around the city. Make it a hard, like, so add three purples.
Right.
All right. So 2 successes and 2 threats. So what you end up doing is you shout exactly what you did. The crowd has closed in, and some people in the actual crowd start to close in on that guy and start to restrain him. However, you've caught the attention of the other 4 people in the group. So there's the one guy going after the woman. 4 of them are now like laser focused on you.
Oh, good.
And the 5th one is just kind of restrained at this moment.
Can I use a free action to do the Matrix style come get some maneuver?
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely taunting them.
Okay. So 3 of the NPCs start to move their way towards you, shouting at you, "Hey, what's the big idea? Who the hell do you think you are?" So they've moved from being about medium distance to short distance to you. They're probably about 10 feet away from being engaged on you.
Cool.
That brings up a next player character. Who wants to go? So at this, Toss is going to step forward. And he's going to step in front of Ren, in between Ren and the 3 people who are working towards them. And he just looks at them, and in a language that you guys don't understand, he starts having like this guttural kind of a chant to them. And he looks at them square in the eyes, points at every single one of them, stops, and he's kind of like doing an eeny, meeny, miny, mo, stops on the center one, and he goes, "You take another step, and you're the first to go down." And he's going to attempt to make a... I have a stat for this. Where is it at?
Coercion, perhaps?
Yes. So he's going to try and make a coercion against them to see if he can get them to kind of back off. So he has one success, one advantage. So he kind of gets them to hesitate. So they're no longer progressing forward. They kind of stop in their tracks and start looking at each other like, I don't know if this is exactly the best idea. I don't know who the hell this guy is. He's kind of he's all geared up in this armor that they've never seen before. He's got this tone of authority, and they kind of back off. And the advantage we're going to get is that more people have piled on to that other one, and they're actually starting to like pick through his clothing looking for this pink handkerchief. And one guy yells, "He's got a blaster! He's got a blaster!"
I have a plan. I would like to take the next slot if everyone's good.
Yeah, go for it.
All right.
All right. Altor having enough hands to perform such a maneuver, he's actually going to sneak a pink kerchief from the stall, run over to the guy, and pretend like he found it on him.
Okay.
Nice.
So, skullduggery, I think.
I'm scanning
That is
through
my
it real
intent
quick.
here.
Yeah. Give me 1 second, because I'm leaning a little bit more towards stealth than skullduggery. But let me read skullduggery, because I think skullduggery has more to do with like talking to unsavory people and finding unsavory people.
Let me do a check on that, because if that is the case, that's not what I do. Because that will go so much more poorly.
I mean, it's to engage in covert or criminal activity, so...
He's not exactly doing this stealthily. He's grabbing a kerchief and running over and going, "Look, he's got a kerchief on him."
The physical abilities to perform a crime, as well
Yeah.
as mental familiarity with the techniques.
Yeah, so we'll say that the crime is stealing the handkerchief without anyone catching you.
Yes. How much difficulty shall I get?
Since the crowd is kind of all distracted on what's going on with that one guy, I'll give you a 2 purple, so an average.
Mm. All right, here we go.
So you pull it off. No one catches it. You drop the handkerchief. There was actually a 6th NPC that was kind of standing back into the shadows that kind of steps forward. He noticed what you did, though, and he kind of, at this point, he's just looking at everyone. And that one that actually stepped out of the shadows is the Lutrillian.
Mm-hmm.
And
well,
he's
if
just
he's one of them, he already knows.
Yeah, and I mean, he's making he's mentally tracking every single person who seems to be part of your party at this point.
All right. Well, he has spotted the hell out of me because I get that lower right hand down there and sneak the kerchief, feed it up to the upper left hand, run over to the dude on the ground who's got everybody piled on him, sort of force the hand in there like I'm grabbing at something. I say,
I found
"You right,
it, I
bastard."
found it. Yeah, no, that works.
And I'm still reading this thing about how the turns work. I think that would probably be
your turn.
most of what I do. I'm gonna say I do get an extra maneuver. That's my racial thing. Is that
Okay?
They get extra maneuvers. Let me see how I could even spend it. I'm going to say I spend 1 to go grab it, do the skill check to grab the kerchief, and then go do the thingy, which would be an incidental because it's just like you say something.
Yep.
And then I walk back over to the stall and present the kerchief to the stall owner.
Well, aren't you a sweetheart? All right, so that brings up next player character slot. That we got Murgo and IG left to go. You guys want to roll? See who goes first. Don't be shy.
Are we shooting yet?
Yeah, you can.
I don't know if this calls for shooting.
You can threaten to shoot.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have good threaten skills.
Oh, I mean, I was pulling out the knives next round, so knock yourself out.
Now, just keep in mind, you are in a heavily busy marketplace.
Well, my knives don't have big, bright, glowing laser beams that come off of them.
I know. I'm letting IG know, just so that way he knows there is a chance there could be collateral damage.
He ain't worried about that. He's an IG unit.
You mean organics might get damaged?
Just don't shoot us and we're gold.
Yeah, I think I just kind of stand down.
Okay. So
Well, can I don't know, do like a perception on the battlefield and kind of like just get a better
yeah, you can get a read on him, or like if you
like a read
wanted,
on the dude and stand like the commander dude.
yeah, you could do that. Like some of the things
I want to
you
scope out the commander dude so that if he makes a threatening move, I can like put him down real quick.
so you want to take kind of like a guarded stance.
Yeah.
So what that'll do is that'll add a like a setback dice to any combat checks that are made at the start of the next turn, and then you'd get a 1+ like melee defense. So if like someone comes to like sucker punch you or put a restraining bolt on you, you'd get a +1 defense against it.
Yeah, that's cool. I just kind of take up like a defensive position, kind of in the back, like to kind of pick the guy off if
Yeah.
shit goes down. But
Well,
I
you could
haven't
also
drawn
take. You could even pull out a gun and like just start aiming it at him.
I'm not gonna do that. That sounds threatening.
Okay. All right, Murgo. What would you like to do?
I guess I would also maybe just like to stand back and look around to see what's going on a little bit better.
Okay. Sorry, I'm pouring myself another beer. Do you want to try and interact, threaten, move towards like the woman who's there? Or you're still like chilling in the shadows?
I'd like to move towards the woman, but still kind of keep a slight distance.
Okay. Yeah, no. So while the three thugs are kind of all focused on Toss and Ren, and you have the whole scenario with the handkerchief being stolen, you're able to move through the crowd pretty easily, and you start to close the distance on that first NPC that was moving their way towards the woman, and you're pretty unhindered. The one NPC is kind of restrained. He's struggling to get out of it. But at this point, there's so many thugs around, or not thugs, kind of vigilantes around pinning him down. He really can't do much. The final NPC is the Lutrillian thug who just kind of eyeballed everyone. And he kind of, he does that. I can't do it. I wish I could. He does the whole 2 fingers in his mouth whistling. And everyone in his group kind of looks at him. And he kind of gives a hand gesture to kind of like, let's back off. And with that, we start a new round. The first NPC is still just kind of closing in on her, but I shouldn't say closing in. He's still following her, but he's kind of slowing down. It's not like he's trying to capture her or harm her. It's more of just that he's following and observing her. That brings up a player character slot. Who wants to go?
So,
Are we gonna just take these guys down so she can escape, and then she'll lead us into a quest or something?
Well, we've already got to go meet her. She's our
she's
contact
our
here for this
contact?
job.
Okay, but we don't want a meeting to get observed by the stations.
Exactly.
So,
I think we've made pretty good progress on that so far, though, just because, we've got them to back off. We got one of them waylaid. The other one's probably going to fall back. So.
what was Toth's? What? Because I don't want to overstep in his lead. What does he look like he's trying to do?
He's trying to get them to back down without it. He doesn't want this. It's as if he doesn't want this to turn into a confrontation. You get the sense he's trying to intimidate them to backing off, because you guys are here for a specific objective, and if you guys end up in the pokey, you may not be able to proceed with that objective.
Be deeply sad.
Okay.
I defer the first slot to the boss.
Okay.
Yeah, let's see what he's doing.
So with that, the three guys are kind of stand down there. They're all in a staring contest. Ren, he looks back at you. He kind of acknowledges that your hands are on the hilt of your are they knives or swords?
Vibroblades, knives.
So your hand's on your knife. He walks over. He puts his hand on your shoulder. He says, "This isn't a fight we want to take on right now."
Okay. I'll acknowledge.
With that, he kind of looks around at the rest of the crowd, or not the crowd, the rest of the group, makes some eye contact with you, and he kind of does this head nod like, "Let's get going."
All right.
The three NPCs that were there, they kind of acknowledged the Lutrillian who kind of whistled at them, and without taking their eyes off you, they kind of start to back off towards him, and they've essentially disengaged, lost interest in you, but it's like they're gonna remember your face.
Good thing it's covered.
Right. So that brings up the PCs. At this point, does anyone want to continue to try and engage with these guys?
I am going to give him a sly little wink with the left eye before I kind of deftly spin and turn to walk in the direction Toth's going.
Okay.
Altor is disinterested in these people already. He's back to munching the squibs.
So we're going to say, Murgo, you're actually far enough away to where you didn't hear Toss talk to the rest of the group. And you've kind of started to close in on the one thug that's following the woman. What would you like to do at this point?
I think I'd like to hang back.
Are you like following her, or are you following him?
I was following him, but if nobody else wants to continue to engage, then I'll hang back.
Okay. So you kind of start to proceed. You're closing in on him. You kind of look back over at your shoulder to see where everyone else is, because you don't know what these people are capable of, and you don't want to end up in over your head. And you actually see about 40 yards back, you actually see the rest of the group kind of disengaging from the group of thugs, and with that you start to kind of slow your pace and fall back some. So we'll say that round ends your guys' first encounter.
Nice.
So with that,
Did we level?
No. Actually, you guys may not be far away from it though. With that, I want to take a quick break, a bio break, so we can all maybe take a 5-minute break, use the restroom, grab some drinks, and we'll be back after that. Is everyone cool with that?
Groovy.
Yeah, seems fine.
All right, cool. All right. So, you guys successfully navigated that encounter. Um, I am actually really happy the way that encounter went off. Um, we'll talk more about that at the end. We talked about it briefly on the break. But with that, uh, does anyone remember where she told you guys to meet?
The droid maintenance hatch.
Good job. Uh, who here would know where the droid access hatch is?
Probably the droid.
I'm gonna guess the droid.
Have you ever been to Bespin before?
Probably. He's a well-traveled droid.
Yeah, well, fair enough. That's a good point. Yeah, we'll say you kind of know your way around and you know where probably the closest one is.
As we go, I will say Altor has finished his squibs.
I was just gonna ask, does anyone else while you're here do any more shopping, or do you want to head like straight towards the access hatch?
No more shopping, but I finished my squibs and I've still got the bucket. And I come up alongside our droid and I say, IG, you want grease? And I pull up some grease from the bottom of the bucket and just kind of squish it between my fingers.
Yeah, all right. This elbow is kind of squeaky.
Perfect. And then I actually will take an amount of it, which should actually superb. It has striking similarities to industrial lubricant.
So he grabs a handful of it out and just it right onto your elbow.
Cool.
Get it in the cracks real nice.
Just kind of flex it around a little bit. And the squeak a little bit goes away.
Good bargain. And I chuck the bucket.
It's a good thing he doesn't have a nose.
All right, so time goes by. You make your way to the access droid access hatch, and she's standing outside of it. You get no one really notices that there's anyone in the black robe thugs. They seem to have kind of broken off, and she's on her own.
I'm just so it's out there. I'm on alert, like actively scanning.
Okay. So while like Tosh goes up to talk to her, kind of thing, you kind of stand back a little bit, kind of at the edge of the like an alley where the hatch is, and you kind of just keep an eye on everything going around for everyone who's walking by, right?
Yeah, well, I'm watching Tosh's back more than anything. He's kind of my purpose.
Okay. Does anyone else want to kind of stand back or go with? What's everyone else want to do?
Yeah, I'm also kind of standing overwatch.
Okay. Kind of hand on your pistol.
Just kind of all sight lines, any potential threats kind of thing.
Okay.
I wipe the grease off my hand onto my pants, and then I pull up my robe. I have a concealing robe. Then I stand up there with Tosh.
Okay. So Tosh approaches the woman. She looks at him and goes, "Oh, you made it successfully. I'm glad to see you were able to kind of break away from them. I apologize for kind of the intrusion. Unfortunately, there's a lot of dealings around the city. Yeah, I just apologize." Toss kind of steps back, puts a hand on your back, outro, and says, "Why don't you do the talking, big guy?"
Boss, I'm honored.
Oh no.
Little do you know, Altor has 3 cunning. He is much better at this part than he lets on. He comes
Yeah.
up, he says, Madam, we understand there is job opportunity.
Yes. If you're still interested, I'd be willing to lead you to the contact. We needed to make sure that we weren't being watched. Is all this job has quite a bit of heat on it, and discretion is of the utmost importance.
Not to barge in here, Aldor. Is this the best place for us to be doing this? Maybe you got a little something more out of line of sight, a little more private?
Oh, yes.
Altor waves you down with two hands. He says, friend, no worries. To our contact.
There's most definitely. We're not going to do the deal here. This is just the checkpoint to make sure we haven't been followed. I just needed to make sure that neither myself nor you had followed. I have to admit, your group has a bit of a name for itself, and while you have a reputation for getting the job done, when you start to gain a reputation, there tends to be people who follow that reputation.
Oh, madam, we're very proud.
Wink.
So she actually kind of looks at the group and is like, well, come with me. And she kind of skirts her way over to the other end of the alley where the access hatch is. And she looks down both ends of the alley, make sure that no one is there. And then down from the droid access is actually an elevator that takes the group down to a lower floor of Bespin, and she enters a code into the panel on that elevator, and the doors slide open. She holds the doors open for everyone and says, please, come.
I'd like to make a roll to have observed the code.
Yeah, roll. I'm leaning towards coordination unless you think that there's something better.
I don't know. Let me look at coordination. I gotta familiarize myself with more of these skills, I guess,
Yeah,
and this is
and
a
that's
good way to do it.
Yeah, that's exactly with me. I'm learning these skills as well.
Coordination, agility.
Coordination sounds more physical.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's exactly
perception.
what he do. Unless you want me to roll. Perception sounds right. You know?
Yeah, perception be better fit for that.
Let me slap a perception on there. What's my difficulty?
Since with how tall you are, it depends. Are you trying to be discreet about it?
Yes, I would say so.
3.
In there. I do not.
I'm gonna say you catch the first 3 out of 5 numbers to the elevator. So she enters a 3, a 5, and an 8.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't catch the last 2.
All right. He tried. Please continue.
So does everyone get on the elevator?
Yeah, I'm on Tasha's 6, always.
Yep, and I'm following them.
Okay. So everyone gets onto the elevator, and you notice the elevator actually, the number on the elevator starts to tick down, and it stops at the 50th level of Bespin. And the doors open, and you find yourself in kind of this plain white hallway. It kind of looks like if you were to go to like a middle grade hotel where there's really nothing quality about it. But it's clean. And she kind of waves everyone off the elevator and escorts you down a hallway to an apartment door, where she walks up on the door and she kind of does this series of knocks, and after a brief moment, a door opens up and you find this middle-aged Pantoran standing in the door. He kind of sticks his head out the door, looks both ways down the hallway. He looks at the woman and kind of hastily, "You weren't followed, were you?" No, we're good. But hurry before someone catches us." And he kind of hurries everyone into the apartment and closes the door behind you guys. As you enter the apartment, you actually find, so this Pantoran man, he's really well dressed, and he's wearing a series of like blue and maroon colored, like a formal suit.
Okay. Altor looks over at Tosh and he makes a kind of rolling me or you gesture at him.
Tosh kind of, he looks at you, he goes, "I'll handle it from here," and he kind of discreetly looks at you like, "Why don't you scope out, make sure that there's no one kind of sneaking around in here." So he kind of wants to make sure like there's no one else here, like you guys are being as discreet as this guy is.
Fair. I will get on that, but I'll let him begin the conversation so that people are distracted when I begin doing so.
Okay. So the Pantoran gentleman he looks at Tosh and says, "I'm pleased that you came. You've been recommended to me as people with a certain set of skills." And as I read this, it kind of makes me think of Taken.
Just a little bit.
Right. "I have a particular set of skills that," and just let the throat punching ensue. So back on topic. So he looks at Tosh, he goes, "I have a job for you. A scheme that requires those skills. What I'm about to propose is illegal, confidential, and could be somewhat dangerous. And if you're successful, could pay out tens of thousands of credits, perhaps more." And with that, he kind of lets it hang in the air.
As soon as he begins openly discussing illegal activities, that is when Altor sort of begins making his rounds.
Okay. So you notice kind of in the apartment, it's a really plainly decorated apartment. There's a single window from the outside that kind of lets light from the Bespin environment in. There's a hallway that leads down to, from what the open door you can make out as a bathroom. And then on both the left and the right side of the hallway are two sets of doors that are actually closed. Opposite of that hallway is kind of a galley kitchen. As far as you can tell, there's no one else here.
All right, I'll roll for it if you feel it's necessary.
If you want to roll perception, go ahead.
Okay.
Make it 3.
Gotcha. There's my perception. And I would like to make a second one.
Okay.
I keep getting stuff like that.
Yeah, no, that's what I love about this game is you can succeed, but when you get those threat dice, it's like you succeed, but what did you screw up in the process? Like, who did you piss off?
What have you done?
Right. That's the cost of success sometimes. So in this case, you start looking through the apartment, and you don't like, and you have no sense of boundaries. So like you're walking around the apartment and there's like the bookshelf. You're like going through, you're pulling books off the bookshelf, flipping through pages. The woman who led you in, she's over at kind of like a liquor cabinet making drinks for someone, and you kind of make your way up and you pull the cork out of a bottle and you start sniffing it, put the cork back in, walk your way down the hallway, knocking, kind of peeking all the doors. What you notice about the apartment is that of all the snooping you did, this apartment is not inhabited. There's no clothing in the dressers. The beds are too made up. All of the picture frames, like you go to Walmart or a Target and you have like those fake family pictures inside those frames. They've never removed those pictures. So like there's no pictures of him or any family members. It's just like all these happy smiling couples. And you're pretty confident that either this place is being rented or this is more of a like a front.
Mm-hmm. All right.
In the process,
So
you've started to irritate the lady who let you in.
This is perfectly fair.
Do I see her kind of getting a little agitated?
Yeah, especially
Sure.
like when she's sitting there trying to pour drinks and like he's going up and uncorking bottles and like one of his hands accidentally bumps her, causing her to splash some liquor on the table.
I'm going to kind of knowingly pat Tosh on the shoulder and stand up and kind of try to kind of use a little charm on her to get her directed towards me rather than towards Altor.
Okay. So I know what Altor and Ren are doing. IG and Murgo, what during the conversation that's going on with Toss, and while Altor's kind of making his way around and just being like borderline rude, what would you be doing during this time as you're watching Altor, a member of this party you just joined, kind of just rummaging his way through this random person's house?
I don't know. I suppose I'm just kind of standing sentry in the middle of this little apartment room, paying attention to everything that's going on.
Okay. What about you, Murgo?
I'm also just kind of observing and watching whatever Altar is doing and rummaging through.
Okay. So you don't want to join in the rummaging?
I'll just idly stand by.
Okay.
Yeah, so I want to ask the lady. So I'm sorry, we never properly introduced ourselves. I'm Ren. And I'll pull down my mask a little bit and smile, my big winning smile, and put my hand out.
Ren, pleased to meet you. My name is Eris. And she sticks her hand out, kind of like you go to shake your hand, but she kind of sticks it out, kind of like.
Oh no, that hand was getting kissed no matter what.
Okay. Your hand or hers?
Well, I mean, it could go both ways, but no, I was kissing hers.
Okay.
Like I said, I'm turning the charm on a little bit to try and put her at ease.
Go ahead and roll cool. Or charm. Actually, charm's more fitting.
Any difficulty or just straight charm?
Because she's irritated with Altor, make it a average instead of an easy.
What's the difference there?
2 instead of 1.
Okay.
So you have 3 failures, but a 3 advantage.
Meaning she's not really into me, but I've totally distracted her from what Altor's doing.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So she's not charmed by you, but you find that she's more kind of relaxed. She's not on the defensive as much as she was before. And she's a little bit more warming up to you, kind of. But she's still kind of, you're still mercenaries. You're still unknowns, and you haven't proven yourself. So she's still suspect, but you're winning her over slightly.
Is she offering me a drink?
Yes. She hands you a glass of Carillion brandy.
Oh, I'll take that and hold my glass up in a toast to her and say, well, here's to new endeavors and profitable outcomes.
Indeed, hopefully for us all. And she continues to pour glasses and distribute drinks to everyone in the group. She kind of stops by you, IG, and she kind of looks down at her glass, and she looks and she goes, I'm so sorry. What? I'd offer you a drink, but I don't have any oil?
Your organic gesture is most appreciated, but unnecessary.
I I have an electrical outlet in one of the back rooms. Do you need to like top off your charge or something?
I have a fusion reactor.
Okay.
Power until the stars end.
And so like when you say that, she kind of like looks around and she takes the glass and she just downs the brandy. And she makes her way back to the cabinet. And while this is going, like while you're having this interaction, Tosh and the gentleman have kind of continued their conversation.
Mhm.
And
Before they proceed too far, I report back into him. Just because I'd want him to know before he gets too deep into this, before we acknowledge any crimes.
Mhm.
You got to be careful with that. Altor's very careful with that. He gets back and he says, "Clean sets, boss. All empty."
You're saying this to Tosh?
Yes, and he should understand, given that we're in the profession, that if the place was inhabited, I would have said house. Whereas clean set means this is definitely a staged location and there's nobody here.
Okay. I'm going to flip that force point, and I'm not going to tell you why.
No.
So, Tosh kind of looks over at Altor and says, "Good job, big guy," and looks back at the gentleman he's talking to, and he's like, "Well, my group is probably one of the best that you can ever get, and the bigger the challenge, the bigger the thrill. So I'm in, but I can't speak for the rest of my party, so I don't do anything without them, and I need to get their buy-in." And he looks at Altor. He goes, "So if everything checks out, Altor, what do you think? Do we accept this man's objective? Do we think we're good enough?"
Altor looks at the contact and he says, "The security, how is it?"
The security of what?
"Oh, I think you know what we do for a living."
Right, and that's, I mean, there's gonna be a lot of security that you have to overcome. That's why I'm looking for some of the best. It's not called the unstealable gem for a reason.
I also look for the best. I will take this gem.
Okay. Ren?
Yeah.
IG? We're gonna skip IG for a moment. He's kind of short circuiting.
Yeah, I'm in.
Okay, you're in. Murgo, you in?
I'm in.
All right. Well, now that I have all of your interest, how about we discuss some of the details? A few days from now, a valuable gemstone will be auctioned off here in Cloud City. A gem known as the Jewel of Yavin, and has a reputation as being unstealable. The plan is this: infiltrate the auction and manipulate the bidders to raise the bid as high as we can. We want the jewel to sell for as much as possible for a maximum return, and then we can slice into the central computer network and redirect the auction credits into one of our own accounts. How's that sound? Tosh seems kind of intrigued. What's everyone else's kind of reaction to that?
It seems a little too simple.
Do you say that?
Yeah.
Well, you do have me there because there's more to be had. The gala and the gemstone are being held at the Fig Associates Art Museum, which isn't designed to protect an object as valuable, making the best chances to nab it at the museum. So not only are we going to be driving up the auction price, redirecting the funds, but then I want you to steal me that jewel.
Now Altor looks happier. He was looking kind of disgruntled in the initial description. He was going, social engineering, hacking, tiresome.
So the Pantoran kind of sits back on the couch, puts his arms up, and he's like, so what do you think?
Well,
Will there be organics to kill?
Well, possibly, but I would probably recommend killing as a last resort. You see, we don't want the heat brought down on us. The people who are involved in this are some of the wealthiest that you have been. The Jewel of Yavin is a very prestigious jewel. It's made its circles and has only traded hands a few times. Many have actually attempted to steal it throughout the years, but security has always been extremely tight.
so number one, who's running security on this?
At the museum,
Yeah.
the museum has actually hired out some private contractors. As far as details of who's in charge, all I could tell you is the Fig and Associates have contracted it out. You'd have to do some kind of research on your own. I'll be honest, I kind of have a reputation and a sense of honor around city. I can't really be seen dirtying my hands and kind of being associated. If the gem were to go stolen and I was asking around about the security, it may not bode well for me.
I understand and respect honor. So let me get this straight. We have a third-party security contractor guarding the gem, otherwise known as the unstealable gem, that has multiple attempts on it in the past and is one of the most valuable items in the galaxy currently. And you've picked out a weak point in their security as far as the housing, not necessarily the security force guarding it. But within this weak point, you think is going to be our key opportunity to lift the item. Is that correct?
That's what I believe so. You see, when the gem is held by a specific person, they fund the security for it. The gentleman that's actually selling the gem, he's loaned it out to the museum. So it's insured. He's just looking for maximum return on it.
So
Security's all by the museum at this point.
you obviously have some connections. Do you have a list of priority buyers?
Uh, there have been some. There is a handful of people that we believe may be interested in it. The local security techs that I've kind of been paying under the table have given me some vague information. I have names, but not details. I'd be happy to share with you what I have.
Please send it to our systems, if you would, so that we can review that at our leisure.
Oh, no. I don't put any of this in writing. Paper trail or digital tracks lead back. He leans over to the woman and kind of snaps his fingers, and she brings over this encrypted holopad. And rather than sending it over to you, he just rattles off a list of names. Let me know when you guys are ready.
I am prepared to write them down.
Keltho the Hutt.
Mm-hmm.
Sharia Ordessa, a.k.a. the Professor. Mil Mikur, the Aristocrat. Pos Podora, the Third Wheel. A woman who goes by the name of Elijah. Boris Tabarith. And when he actually says that name, you actually notice the woman who led you here. She kind of like gives like this shudder. And then he says there's also a newcomer that I've just learned about this morning. Name is Zekra Fall. She was a sudden entry in terms of people who have been asking about the gem. Unfortunately, she's probably the one that I have the least amount of information that I could help you with. The bit of information that I have been able to gather, there seems to be this weird love triangle between the Twi'leks, let's call them, Sharia, Milker, and Pos. I don't have the details other than one of them seems to be found in multiple taverns, getting liquored up and then expressing his love of this woman and how she never shows him interest. And apparently she was married to one of the other. I don't know. It's this long, convoluted. It's strange. I don't understand Twi'leks. I never will, but that's the extent of I can tell you.
Fair enough.
Altor has literally been taking the notes.
So, do you have an image of the prize? I need to know what we're actually lifting.
Just what is on the kind of informational banners that the museum has been handing out. So those of you who are in video chat, this is actually a picture of the gem.
Oh.
Okay, so it'll fit in two hands, basically.
Yes. It's
a big ass gem.
Yes, it is.
Does it emit any form of energy or radiation?
To my knowledge, no. It's just quite valuable.
Okay. And what is it going to be carried in?
I don't know. Right now, it's in the museum. It's in a pedestal on display under glass. I'm assuming there's security that surrounds this glass, but in terms of how it's being transported and what type of enclosure it is after it's left hands, that's I haven't thought that through because I always assumed we'd be stealing it beforehand.
That's fair.
We solve these problems when we get to them. When is Gala?
4 days from now is the start of the gala.
And do we have any petty cash with which to prepare?
Well, I mean, I assumed you came prepared.
Takes money to make money.
That it does. You know,
The main thing is
if
we
this
did not have any of these details beforehand, so we're going in blind at this point. We need to prepare, and there's going to be certain items that will make this job go a whole lot more smooth than Mo and Joe and my two bare hands.
that is a fair point. If you're successful, we're all successful, and I will admit, I do not want to pinch pennies at this point, or pinch credits at this point. How much are you thinking you would need to fund a job of this size?
Altor,
Mm,
crack some numbers. What do you think?
Altor's rubbing his chin. He looks over at Tosh.
Tosh looks over at IG and says, "You're the droid. What do you think?"
The droid runs some numbers. We're gonna need some bribes. We're gonna need some I don't know, costumes or whatever.
Yeah, high dollar
Uh,
costumes.
Yep. We're gonna have to look the part when we're meeting these people.
Altor says, museum, security company.
Twi'lek pheromones. I need a bottle of
and-
Twi'lek pheromones.
At least a drill and a climber. At least. Likely a black box as well. 500, my part.
500 credits.
Sounds fair.
Done.
Yeah, that sounds cheap as fuck.
Yeah,
That-
yeah. He's like,
Altor
you
said
got it.
my
He's
part.
reaching
Yeah,
for his
that-
build pole right now.
Altor said my part.
Yeah, that's 500 for Altor.
Well, what? All right, 500 for what? 500 for each. What? Tell me, what do you think the total is? I mean, we're talking. If we pull this off, potentially hundreds of thousands of credits. Of course, we must split it 7 ways, but I mean, we're whatever.
All right, well-
I'm willing to front you the cash, but it will come from your cut.
That's fine. And how about let's do a 500 apiece. And there's one more big question I've got.
Okay. So we'll be looking at 2K credits.
And, well, 25 if Tosh
25,
wants
yeah.
it.
All right, so yeah, 25 in credits.
The other big question is this. The ship we came in on it's a rust bucket. It ain't nothing special, nice, or necessarily speedy. Once we have this thing, we can't stay here. Not with this. Do you have a plan to get this thing moved or fenced?
After it's been stolen itself, I do have a potential black market buyer that could sell it underground.
Potential's kind of loose.
Well, you haven't stolen the gem yet. I mean, everything is. I don't go to a potential fence and say, "Hey, I'm going to steal the unstealable gem. Can you sell it?" I mean, I do my due diligence, but the more people who know about this, the more people who have information to sell on us. It's best to handle and work out those details after the gem has been stolen. But in terms of, yes, I have many people that I would love to have their name associated with selling this.
Altor says, your fence here?
Off planet.
So that goes back
You want
to
us
my
should
point.
make the delivery?
Exactly. We're gonna need a ship.
Our ship, I love it. Is hideous, but fast, not so much.
The escape plan, that's on you to figure out.
Altor throws up 2 hands. He says, all right, is us.
That's why I'm looking to hire the best. If you can't cut it, let me know. And with that, there a chiming starts to actually, not a chiming, more of a chirping. Did you ever have Nokia? No, not Nokia. What was the crap? Murgo. What was the type of phone around here that would have the walkie-talkie that would chirp? Nextel.
The Nextel.
Do you have Nextel by where you guys are at?
Yeah.
Yeah, there was
So
Nextel around.
So you start hearing that like chirping coming from his pocket, and he reaches in and he pulls out a comm link, and he kind of briefly talks into it, and he puts it back into his pocket. He stands up, says, "I apologize. I must excuse myself. I'm being summoned. However, my daughter, Eris, she'd be more than happy to stick around and fill in any details and answer any questions you may have."
Family affair. Okay.
With that, he kind of makes haste, bids you adieu, and he leaves you with Eris to kind of hash out any more details for the plan.
Well, so
And while you guys think this over for a moment, I'll be right back.
Altor, it looks like it's on us to not only to scout and determine the location and the security, but also the players. We've got very little detail to go on here.
Yeah. Altor actually pulls you over to a huddle up with IG 777s. And he says, IG, the ship. What you think, we can make it go faster, or do we just steal another?
What do we have?
That's actually a good question. What kind of ship do we have?
We had an absolute piece of shit. It was great.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's like you would not be stopped by anyone as being a thief because you have like a clunker.
Let me see. We wrote it down somewhere. We did pick a ship.
Maybe that's a good disguise. Maybe that's part of what makes us the best, is that nobody expects like a fucking hoopty going cross country.
Yeah.
Like to be.
I remember it had. I think it had the smuggler compartments.
It did.
It did. Altor's still deliberating. He says, They can't be looking for us then. As soon as somebody says, oh, they've stolen, unstealable gem, every ship on the way out they search.
We already be gone.
We'd best. You've seen that thing move. Doesn't.
Yeah, we are talking about stealing the unstealable gem. Once this thing goes missing, and it's gonna be noticed missing unless we can come up with some type of decoy or dummy gem to replace it with, to hopefully hide the fact that we've lifted it. Every security guard attached to this thing is going to be scouring the place. We're not getting out of here without somebody noticing that a ship has left following the lifting of the unstealable gem. It's going to be really difficult unless we've got like a blockade runner or something.
With that, Eris kind of chimes in, and she's like, well, Bespin does have quite a vast industrial section. There's a lot of dealing and transportation of the Tabana gases that are harvested from the environment. Typically, this is all gas that's been frozen inside of carbonite. Possibly that could be one way where you could smuggle the gem.
Freeze it in carbonate?
And nobody would look for it there.
Would it damage the gem?
Carbonite
would be on us to figure out.
Yeah, carbonite's. I mean, we use carbonite around here because the Tabana gas is quite volatile. The carbonite seals it with inside of whatever shape or container that you put inside there. It's quite gentle. I've heard stories about even people being frozen in carbonite to later be thawed. Sounds quite risky to me, but there are some of those unsavory types who have smuggled in humans in such a nature.
You see, Ren, we put you in with Jim. They try and cut it open to get Jim, you stab.
That's tempting. It is tempting, but I think we'd probably have an easier time with the IG unit if we're freezing people. Nothing personal.
Altor looks at him and says, No. Carbon in all the joints. He's not sealed up so well.
Yeah, I got holes all throughout my body. I ain't sealed up so well either.
You just close them. Easy.
Closing my holes is like getting you to stop eating.
So, quite a few of you, I don't mean to intrude, but are you being a bit presumptuous, planning the escape with? Shouldn't you be planning how to steal the gem and up? You have to remember, there's two parts to this. You're focusing on the gem, but there's also the theft of the credits.
We've been discussing the logistics, the theft of the credits. I thought you had a handle on that.
Oh, that's
So you want us to hack the credits too?
Yes.
Lady, good madam. Stealing is easy. Reach out and take. Getting away? There's the challenge.
Is it going to be a physical or digital transfer of credits?
It would be a digital transfer. We have actually set up a third-party account, quite frankly, to prove our trust. She hands you a data pad that actually has the transfer codes.
I handed it immediately back to Alter.
There's two data pads. You own one data pad. We have another. These codes are randomly changing, so no one can get to these funds except ourselves. But there should be the bank and the routing codes all within encrypted on that data pad. It's of the utmost importance that you do not lose this data pad.
Of course. Tucks it into the jacket.
So here's what we have to do if we want to make this happen, because I don't think any of us have the skill necessary to breach a digital security system of this level. We're going to have to manipulate this in a way where we determine who's winning this bid and redirect the funds from the point of contact.
I apologize if my father wasn't clear, but yes, that is the first objective before stealing the gem.
No, I mean, we need to determine who's going to win the bid.
Well, preferably you manipulate the bidders to drive up the bid as well.
Well, fair. But I think the goal is to make sure we know who's going to win, no matter how far up it gets driven.
Indeed.
We need to make sure that person's on top and in our pocket.
True. From some of the private houses that I've spoken to, I believe that we may be looking anywhere from 500 to 1 million credits that this gem could sell for at the auction.
500 credits?
500,000 to 1 million credits, I'm sorry.
Oh, I was going to say, I'll throw a bid in myself.
500,000. That's why a hut's involved. 500 credits, a hut wouldn't bother with a 500 credit gem.
Hut's not going to win this.
Right.
That's not our man.
You wouldn't even scratch
Altor
the
disagrees.
surface. Like you'd go to the auction house and they'd be like, opening bid, 100,000, 500.
Sold.
Altor says, well, you want money, you go to a hut.
Yeah, but the reason
Getting him to
you
do anything is a little tricky.
reason you go to a hut for money is because they're kind of skimpy about giving it. I think if anyone's gonna be our well, our patsy in this one, I think it's gonna be the Twi'leks. We've got competition there already, and it's emotional based competition. That's so much easier to manipulate. Just push here, twist there, and suddenly they're fighting a bidding war in an attempt to gain favor with the one true love or whatever we've got going here. I think that's where we're gonna really be able to apply some weight to get results.
We buy dossier on everyone. Someone will be weak.
So Eris is kind of while she's taken her father's position on the couch, and while you two are talking, she kind of glances over at IG and Murgo, and she's kind of getting a little uncomfortable. She's like, do they not speak?
Yeah, they talk all the time. Couldn't shut them up on the way over.
What? I don't know. It's a murder droid. Like, and nothing to murder. I don't know. He's very perceptive.
Ask him the best way to dismember an Ewok. He'll talk your ear off for an hour. Try it. It's hilarious.
Those poor Ewoks. They're so cute and fluffy.
No, try it. Ask him.
Oh,
Yeah.
you have not seen
Disgusting
Ewok
organics.
Spike Trap.
And you've not tasted one, I'm sure. But yeah, ask him. It's hilarious.
Maybe another time. How about your scaly friend? What skills does he bring?
You
All
see him
eyes
punch a
on
man,
Murgo.
you'd swear he had more arms than me.
All eyes on Murgo.
Murgo, what skills do you bring?
Bring punching and being quite agile.
Okay. So you fit into like the tight spaces to steal the gem?
Yes.
Okay, I could see that of use. I'm sorry, I did not mean to interrupt. I'd be more than happy to function as a bit of a guide. She kind of hands you her transponder codes to her comm link. Anything you need. I know my way around this city. Both I have connections both to the upper crust as well as the kind of the underground. I can kind of navigate you and direct you. Just let me know what you need. I'm more than happy to arrange any meetings or point you in the right direction for anything that you need to accomplish this objective. If you succeed, we all succeed. So just tell me what you need.
We first need buy information. Freshest as possible.
Are there any type of social events where all of these buyers are going to be gathered prior to all this?
That is a fine question. The day before the auction is the Grand Prix. Matter of fact, now that I think about it, the award for the Grand Prix is actually an invitation to the auction. Every year, there's some big exhibit, some big hoopla that the museum puts on that corresponds with the same time as the Grand Prix, and it's kind of became a staple for the winner of the Grand Prix to make an appearance at the museum's events.
So we're talking about a race.
Oh, the Grand Prix is on.
Yes, the Cloud City Grand Prix. It's actually become quite a formidable, not only racing event, but quite profitable to any of those who like to make a wager.
Yeah, the droid kind of perks up at the mention of a wagerable event.
Oh yes, thousands of credits trade hands.
IG, you think you got it in you?
I think I might need a bigger bankroll.
You may need racer.
I think we can make this happen one way or another. In fact, I'd be willing to bet we could probably find a patron that'd be willing to supply the ship if we could convince him that IG is the pilot that's going to win it.
Well, I'll be honest. I may have a couple of options that I could refer you to. Let me put out some feelers. Give me a few hours, and there's a couple of people that I think I may be able to arrange meetings with that I don't know if they would necessarily be willing to race, but they could definitely arrange a vehicle for you. Quite possibly, if you'd be willing to split some of the winnings with them, they may be able to front you the vehicle. From what I understand, the grand prize not only is an invitation to the museum event, but 30,000 credits to the first place winner.
Sounds lucrative.
Altor's bringing out his smoky eunuch side, and he pats IG on the back. He says, First thing, you must extend fuel lines to fit more fuel. Then you must lower. And then when they say that's too low, you go lower. Get good aerodynamics.
You know what else would help on top of that? Is if maybe you could decrease the efficiency of the other racers there, Altor.
He's tapping the side of his head, and then he points at me and he says, Now you're thinking.
She starts to click her tongue, and she's like, now you're thinking like a Grand Prix racer. Every year, there is some underhanded dealings. So you see, the Cloud City racing event not only is a traditional race, but weapons are allowed. While you are not allowed to kill another racer, all cars are equipped with forward-facing blasters.
Well, there you go, IG. Your dream come true. Fast movement and murder.
Gotta go fast, gotta go blast.
That I gotta quote that for the stream. Quote of the night.
That's episode 2 right there.
That's getting painted
Stream
on the
title.
side of your razor.
Nice.
Gone in 60 seconds has just been replaced with gotta go fast, gotta go blast.
Altor looks to Tosh, him still being, in charge, big boss man. And he says, Boss, we have time for a race?
Yeah, from what I'm hearing, that may be our best in to the side of the event for driving up the cost of the auction. Now, what I'm curious about is once we're there, we're going to have to figure out who to manipulate. And I think you're on the right spot about the Twi'lek love triangle, whatever that is, to take place. He looks over at Eris and he's like, what can you tell us about the Twi'leks? And with that, who here wants to actually, who's got either the best knowledge for Underworld or Streetwise?
I think that's probably me.
What do you got?
Let me check my sheet because I know I've got good points in both for cunning.
Yep. 3 green for Underworld and 2 for Streetwise.
I've got 3 green for Streetwise, and I've got a proficiency in Underworld. I've got a rank in it.
That's you.
Yeah.
I have
Yeah.
1 yellow,
You have what?
1 yellow and 1 green for Streetwise.
Very nice.
I think your Streetwise, because of the yellow, may be the best.
Yeah, the yellows are pretty strong.
So with that, Tosh is actually gonna look at Murgo and he's like, Murgo, I think one of our next steps is you to use some of your underground contacts, some of that streetwise you got. Go around, maybe hit some of the local bars and see what you can dig up on these Twi'leks. And he's actually gonna look at Ren and say, Ren, I think it'll probably be best for you and Murgo to team up, at least on the first day. It sounds like we have 2 days to do as much planning as we can before the race. In that time, we're going to need one party to figure out how we're going to kind of make the race go in our favor. And then we're going to need a separate group to kind of figure out the logistics of how we're going to break in. Me, I'll take it upon myself. I'll make an arrangements to get us a splicer, because doesn't matter how high we get the credits up, unless we have someone who can hack into that system and redirect the funds, it's all going to be for naught. And unless one of you tell me differently, I don't think any of us have a particular set of skills for splicing.
No. And I'll always honor your orders there, boss, but you know how I feel about leaving you unattended.
So Tosh, like, he acknowledges you, but he kind of waves you off as being kind of clingy. Tosh looks over at Eris and says, so what exactly can you tell us about the cellar? Because I imagine we go and we steal the funds and we steal the gem. The seller's not going to be too happy. And quite frankly, I don't want a hit put out on my head because I didn't do our due diligence. And she actually looks at Toss and she kind of steeples her fingers and she said, well, Marcus Grayson is the current seller. He's a commissioner in the Imperial Trade and Commerce Authority. An example of exactly why everyone hates Imperial bureaucracy. She goes into a little bit more about the background of how Marcus Grayson kind of wronged her family. Her family was had some prestige within the Empire, and they were very heavily involved with the banking system in Corellia. And Grayson, as soon as the Empire seized power, his family had a lot of loans out to the bank, and the bank was trying to collect on those loans. And Grayson got real dirty and actually set up an event where the Empire viewed the bank as traitors and seized all the funds, kind of discrediting Eris's grandparents, who was Aaron, her father's parents, they ended up having to flee the Imperial system, and on Bespin is kind of where they've kind of been making a new name for themselves. So there's kind of a personal nature to it.
So one way to avoid him putting a hit out on us is to put him down in the process, just to throw that out there.
That is true. And from what I understand, your IG unit may that may be up his alley. However, he is part of the Empire, and they don't take kindly to people offing their own.
Like it's the first Imperial I could kill.
Well,
Like I haven't killed Imperials before.
you know, murder is something we're all especially fairly well versed at. However,
Organic's organic.
Oh,
There's-
this one. He's not just organic. He's piece of Imperial machine. Big piece.
oh yeah, but I think this opens.
They don't like.
This opens up a really unique opportunity, in the sense that we steal the gem, divert the funds, and as an act of misdirection, put this fool down and then pin it on someone else and make them look like the patsy for the whole thing. We can even leave a little bit of a money trail behind just to lead them off while we make out with the goods.
So,
Ah.
Altor,
Rin,
do me
we discuss extracurriculars. No good.
The murder robot is okay with you planning an alibi for his murders.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Could even look like he was behind it all and got killed in the process, which would be really sweet.
Trying to do some sort of insurance fraud.
Either way, he's going to die in the process. We can all agree on that, right? We're all cool with that.
Rin, it's too much.
I
It's
will
too much.
I will do him a square solid, and I will pull him aside and just hand him one of my knives, and we will go at it mano a mano, knife to knife. Fair game. Like, if he dies, he dies. He's got every opportunity to kill me in the process.
You would give the organic a fighting chance?
It's the honorable thing to do.
Eh,
I don't know.
Murgo,
Yeah.
do me a favor and roll streetwise with 2 purples. Zero successes. All right. You're listening in intently on this, and you feel like you are about to add something to this, and then you kind of back off and have second thoughts about it as Altor and Ren are kind of just real deep in conversation. Altor, do me a favor. You roll for... Which was it I was going to have you roll for? Roll for skullduggery.
How much difficulty?
2 purple. Wow. I really expected a much higher roll on that.
So did I. But I mean, look at those purples.
Yeah, that's actually like almost one of the worst purples you could get. So you do succeed at least.
And I have an advantage.
You do have an advantage. While you're actually talking through kind of the logistics and brainstorming on kind of steps for this, you have a thought that the party should attempt to examine the physical security features surrounding the gem, if not before the gala, but during it, as it may be worthwhile to investigate the security guard details as well.
Oh, this was already on Altor's mind. He was gonna spend whatever part of the day he's not preparing for a race. He's going to look up the company. He's going to find some place they've secured, get a ticket to the museum. Whole thing.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We've got a solid Ocean's 11 line of questioning going so far.
It's you're on the right track. IG, do me a favor and roll for piloting planetary with 2
Right.
purple.
Purple. You got it.
Nice.
All right, so you got 2 successes.
Yeah. Droid supremacy.
So you've actually the talk about the race and the credits and the gambling that come along that. You start thinking that you've bet on many races before, and you realize that many races are won even before stepping foot on the track, and it's best to formulate a strategy. The party will need to find out more about the race course, but not only the race course, but the racers that are involved in it. And Eris has already mentioned she'd be able to set you up with a mechanic. So you're kind of starting to think of a line of questioning to vet out that the mechanic would be worthwhile. So if any, because of the 2 successes that you got, make a note that when you have a social interaction with any of the mechanics that you're interviewing, you'll end up having a boost dice from those interactions.
Okay.
That leaves us with Ren.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at your stats real quick to see what might be good for you.
That was 1 or 2 boosted.
Just 1 boost.
Got it.
Yeah, none of these really fit well with you. I'll give you an option. You can pick knowledge lore, knowledge underworld, or knowledge outer rim.
Looks like they're all the same, so
Yep, that's why I'm giving you the choice of them.
let's go outer rim. How about that?
That'll work. And 2 purple to your roll as well. 0 successes.
Spend a token.
Yeah. Those you guys have all
We are
those
wiped
beautiful.
across the board. Spend a token.
All right.
I don't know how to spend a token.
You just click it.
Okay.
So you're sitting there and you feel like you've heard something about like you've heard about how it's a great tourist attraction, and you're tripping, like you just have this memory block, and then all of a sudden it all starts flooding into you. Like a wave, it hits you. The name Lando Calrissian sticks out, and you realize that you've heard stories that he's recently became the new Baron Administrator to Cloud City. But more specifically, he has an assistant named Lobot, who you've heard was actually a prison inmate who had a bunch of cybernetics kind of voluntarily implanted in him. And he's kind of the he's the administrative assistant, but he does everything digitally. And he runs most of the day-to-day operations using his cybernetic implants to directly uplink to the central computer networks for managing the ins and outs, everything from the casino security systems down to the industrial logistics.
So this Loba character is basically integrated into all of it.
Yeah, and anyone who's actually seen the Star Wars movies before will actually have seen Lobot before. I'm going to go ahead and share a picture with everyone just for reference so you kind of know who Lobot is.
Oh yeah, I remember him.
Hey, look at that.
Yeah, so this is Lobot. If
He's
you've
the
seen the
dude.
movies, you've seen him. Like, he controls almost everything in the city remotely.
Mm.
So,
It's an acceptable organic.
yeah. So those are the details that I'm willing to share with you guys, or at least force you guys to roll on. What do you guys want to do from here? You guys want to discuss more? You think you have a plan?
I think we have a plan in motion as far as what we need informationally. We've also each got our basically our petty cash for prep work and a plan to get even more money and an invitation.
Mhm,
All right,
mhm.
you
I
guys-
think we arranged with Eris for that racing sponsor before we leave.
Yeah, she'll make the arrangements for it. What I'm going to say is at this point, we're going to wrap up the session.
Very nice.
You guys have kind of made you're about halfway through what I'd say is the first act. You've laid the groundwork. You have a good idea. What does everyone think of the adventure so far? I'm gonna start with Ginkgo and I'm sorry, IG and Murgo. This is your guys' first time actually playing in a tabletop RPG. What are your thoughts of it?
Yeah, this is fun. I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's just a lot of getting used.
Yeah,
Being
it's because it is so much different than some other games where it's like, so D&D, for example, a lot of D&D is like, all right, you're in a dungeon, here's a map, you move, you roll. This is a lot more like kind of figuring things out.
Well, plus, and just to throw this out there, like Altor and I are old salts at this, and we game together a lot in other games. So if
Right.
you feel like at any time we're kind of dominating the role play or the conversation, like just jump in and cut us off or knock us out or anything, because we bounce off each other pretty well generally.
We
I
do
mean, it
tend
kind
to
of makes
this.
sense though. Like,
It was a good decision of yours there to split us up.
Yeah, that's
wise.
there was a reason for that.
But even if we talk a bunch, we will try and loop you into to conversations, to actions, to do stuff as often as possible.
Yeah, and one of the things that I like about narrative games like this is, so there's this saying in Dungeons and Dragons that you'll hear people say of never split the party. One of the things I love about narrative games is it's rare. Like, if you watch a Star Wars movie, it's not, the party's not always together. Like, if you, especially the new Star Wars movies, Ren and Finn weren't together every step of the way. So that's what I really like about narrative games. But I just want to make sure, you guys being new to this game, that one, that you feel comfortable with it, that you're enjoying yourself, and I'm not throwing too much at you guys.
Yeah.
no, it's just really fun. I'm starting to kind of get the point, and yeah, now we gotta.
There will be more murder eventually.
Yeah, I mean, this campaign in particular is, it's not designed to be a lot of go in and do a lot of fighting, but there's the potential for it. And that's one of the things that why I picked this adventure as well, is because I felt that it was a good way to introduce everyone into RP versus just, all right, here's 5 people, let's sit around rolling dice to figure out how to hit them.
Yeah, that's fair.
Altor and Ren, Church and Jacob, you guys being more of the veterans, what do you think of this system versus 5th edition and the Fate system that we've been playing with Dresden Files?
Dice are a little more complicated than the Fate system as far as the narrative games go.
Yeah.
The Fate system is almost like you don't even have to think about it. It's just easy to throw the dice you need whenever you need them, and it kind of just plays out as it's supposed to. Whereas this is a lot more complex, but in some cases it needs to be.
Yeah, that's why we're doing RPG sessions, because it tells us the success failure. Like, we're not trying to figure out what the symbols on each dice mean and subtract them. It just tells us, did you succeed or failure, and how well did you succeed or fail?
Yeah, I imagine it would be fun with a physical set, because then you've got the pile of cool exotic dice and you get to roll them.
Right.
But, you know, all that aside, it's dice. We can manage dice. We do this, you know. I like the flavor better than I honestly was expecting. I've watched, I've watched all of the Star Wars films. I have more than a passing familiarity with some of the extended universe works, just the ones that I happened to enjoy, but I wouldn't say I'm deeply a Star Wars guy. And
so you're
yet,
not going to call me out on things being outside of the timeline in terms of lore?
Never. I have never cared about lore ever. But I must admit, you do drop into it and you know exactly how a Star Wars character should act.
Yep.
So that's kind of nice. There's that instant flavor, instant thematic content that you get just because you're intimately familiar with how this sort of place functions. So even if you don't have the details don't matter. It's all about the style.
Yeah. Would you guys want to see anything different in the next session, or are you kind of interested and hooked on the way this is going?
I'm solid.
Yeah,
I'm good.
No, I think we've got a very interesting, solid plan that could go a lot of interesting directions, including ultimate failure. But
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
part of the fun
sometimes-
is if you fail, how do you get away?
yeah, sometimes failure works too.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that you guys didn't ask that you could have asked, that you'll have to kind of either figure out or be surprised about. So that'll be fun.
Everyone loves that. I love how punishing the dice are.
Yes. Yes.
You
This
can
is
be
true.
really good at something and still just get kicked in the teeth.
Right. And that's one of the things I love about it is, like, you can succeed, but by succeeding, you've screwed yourself. Like, it's like you go and it's like, all right, I'm going to hack this door. And yes, I've opened up the door, but behind that door is 5 stormtroopers ready to shoot at me.
Well, they're
There's a
still
reason
not.
it's blocked.
They're still not as bad as the Fantasy Grounds dice are, as to me.
The generator here, I think, might be fair. I think it's just designed to hurt.
Yeah. And you can fail. And there was, I think, one case where you guys failed, but you had 2 advantage. So it's like, all right, you failed, but yeah. So it's like you failed at charming her. You failed at charming her, but you warmed her up to the party.
Yeah,
So,
it still succeeded, just not with flair.
right, exactly. So it's and that's one of the things that and when we get into combat, the way the dice work is, with other games, like, you roll to hit and then you roll for damage. In this game, you just roll one set of dice, and it's a skill check. The damage and everything comes off of that one roll. So, how does everyone's schedules look for doing another session? Church, I believe you're gone the
Next
week of the... Is it next week?
Yeah, the 9th through...
That's 2 weeks.
Sorry, I'm looking at pay schedule weeks. Yeah, the 9th through the 13th, I'll be out of commission.
Are you going to be running a D&D game on the 14th?
Possibly. Let me see, because I'll be out of commission because I have a romantic guest coming to visit. So we'll see how that goes.
So let's see here. I don't want to screw up our Dresden Files weeks too much.
Yeah, if you skip a week of Dresden, Hannah's just gonna burst into flames.
I know. I don't. She'll kill me.
Yeah. Mike has actually become a bit of therapy for me too. So
You got to work out those childhood traumas.
exactly.
So how does what? Oh, that's Black Friday. How? I won't be around Black Friday. I'm gonna go get liquored up. So what I'm gonna do is I'll ping you everyone independently and figure out what works. And see, there's maybe a Saturday. If we wanted to do a Saturday sometime in the next month, maybe a Saturday or two, if Church is willing to give up some D&D sessions, how does Saturday work for everyone?
I'll work with you on that. I got no problem with it.
You just have to know what specific stage.
You broke up there. What was that?
You just have to let me know what specific day you chose. Usually I'm free on Saturdays.
Yeah, you should have more than a week's notice.
Yeah, that's perfect.
All right.
Yeah, it's cool with me. I don't go anywhere.
All right, cool. We'll work out
that.
the logistics of that. So that way we don't end up having to wait until the middle of December for our next session.
Yeah, I've always got a block carved out for Saturdays.
Yeah, because I'm really liking this game so far and where it's going. All right, fantastic. I appreciate everyone jumping in and volunteer to learn the system with me.
Experience or credits or anything for all of that?
Credits.
We do have things.
You do get credits. Yes, I'm glad you brought
how does all of that
up.
work?
I'm glad you mentioned it.
I assume we go back into the character generator and load the thing we made 2 weeks ago, but
you'll go into the and you could go into Og generator. It depends. I'd recommend the Og generator while you're learning the system. I'm supposed to assign experience at the end of every session, but I'm still learning how to balance assigning experience. So I'll post in Discord what the experience gain is. I'm thinking everyone's going to end up with at least 5 experience, but I'm going to do the number crunching, and I'll post in Discord, let you know.
All right.
Any other questions?
There is a credits field in the character sheet if you go to your characters for RPG sessions.
Yep. You get an extra 500 credits each. So feel free, look through the gear. Even if you want to look online and be like, hey, this isn't in Og Dude's thing, but I think it's really cool. It's a homebrew thing. I'd be willing to look it over and accept it or tweak it.
Yes, I will be buying some further breaking and entering equipment, but I got to scout the place first.
So when you say scout the place, are you going to scout the museum?
That is the plan.
Fantastic. There's a map for that.
Beautiful. You love to see it. We'll see exactly how open it is. I assume a museum, you can buy a ticket and go in.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
So yeah, definitely go in the museum.
All right, cool. That'll be our next session then. I'll get you guys the details. We actually had more viewers tonight than we've had in a while, so I'd like to thank all the viewers who tuned in and watched us stumble our way across Star Wars this evening. Church, tomorrow is Sigil Confidentials, right?
Correct. Sigil Confidential Halloween edition.
Yes.
Fantastic. There's a very good chance I will not be around for that game, so please don't hurt Kong too bad.
He gonna
It'll
die.
be a special non-continuity Halloween episode.
Yeah,
He gonna die.
Kong. I've grown attached to Kong and his hijinks.
I'm gonna get eaten by a zombie Bariar with a beehive.
That wouldn't surprise me. All right. I'm gonna end the stream